heart function goes down. The program involved screening of the community in rural Tasmania, which is a very remote part of Australia. It involved people in mobile vans going to communities, getting people to do a quick questionnaire, and giving them a digital health device to take home, take their EKGs, and email these back in. As a result, we're able to detect significant subclinical atrial fibrillation. Why is atrial fibrillation important? Atrial fibrillation occurs when the atria starts pulsating rapidly, and the danger of it is if it's left untreated, it can lead to stroke or even full-blown heart failure. And what we're able to do is use handheld devices like these remotely in the community to detect these conditions, email the results back in, and detect them at a much earlier stage. How does the social impact bond work? Initially, there's an outcome pay. In the case we're working with the Victorian government and the Federal Health Department in Australia, they sign a contract saying, if we can reduce heart failure and stroke by $200 million worth of cost to them, they're willing to pay us a portion, let's say $100 million. We have an intervention group which involves Professor Tom Marwick as the intervention out of the Baker Heart and Diabetes Institute. And we then go to investors and raise capital to fund them to run that public health intervention in the community. They then deliver the intervention into the community. And what then happens is an independent evaluator who comes in and evaluates whether they actually deliver the savings they promised. And if those savings are delivered, can you just go back a slide? If those savings are delivered, then the government pays that return out to the investors. And just to give you an idea, in Australia alone, we have one of our insurance companies which has allocated $400 million to this. In New York, we're working with Goldman Sachs, who's allocated $163 million into investing in these sorts of projects. Next slide. Globally, there's a wide array of social impact bonds, everything from funding girls' education in Rajasthan, through to, in Australia, we're doing early childhood education. In the United States, juvenile justice. And I think in Colombia, there's one around workforce training and education. These are some of the examples. So in New South Wales, we have two right now, the Benevolent Society Bond and the New PIN Social Benefit Bond. The Benevolent Society Bond involves working with families to stop them breaking up, because when children go into foster care, it costs the state about $36,000 a year to look after them. So if we can invest early to keep the families together, we avoid that happening. In New PIN, we're dealing with out-of-home care for youth leaving at-risk centers. In Massachusetts, there's a program being run around juvenile justice to stop youth offenders going back in. And in the UK, there's one called the Rough Sleepers Social Impact Bond, focused on homelessness, because when homeless people interact with the health system, the outcome is significantly worse than the general public goes in. So if we can treat them early, reduce homelessness, reduce significant cost to the NHS. I'd like to just end on a note. My grandmother used to tell me the stories in Diwali. Diwali is the Indian Festival of Lights. And what she'd say is we lit each lamp. Is the symbolism behind this is that in a way we are our own light in the world. And we always start with one light and we see how many others we can light along the way, and then you use them to light each other. And I hope as members of the UWC Alumni Committee, in many ways these and the other ideas we see today can be used to continue lighting these lamps in the world and have an impact. Thank you.
Camille, 07.
Hello, can you hear me? More or less? More? Okay. All right. So this talk will be more on the technology side, but I promise it will not be boring. But I think that it's worth to tell you about something that I'm working on, and something that's happened really in the past few years. The recent advances in this field, which is the AI, pretty much, so have been striking. These are the images of AI that kind of we imagine. What is AI? Artificial intelligence. So basically robots who are taking over the world, fighting humans, controlling us. can it become a reality? But so let's start. What are the machines that are intelligent? How do we define that? Artificial intelligence. Those are basically machines or computers that can learn and that can solve problems without being like explicitly said something. Can we go back for a second? So for instance, very often computer programs say, if you go to school, you have to take the books. But then an intelligent robot doesn't need to be told that he needs to take books. If he knows that he goes to school, he needs to take books. Okay, let's go. So why is this happening now? There is more and more computational power. The computer is getting more powerful, they are more parallelized, and we have more data these days. Every time, for instance, we use cell phone, Google knows where we are, or we upload pictures to Flickr, Flickr has our images. And there are also better algorithms that are developed these days, and basically the combination of these three caused that there has been in the past 5 years, literally in the past 5 years, there's been huge advances in this field. Let's go. So the field that I'm actually working on is called machine learning, which becomes a huge part of artificial intelligence. And basically, this is how artificial intelligence in the future will work, will show its presence. Can we go back for a second? For a second. Yeah. So what is machine learning? Machine learning is basically what I said before, is the ability of computers to learn something without being explicitly programmed, explicitly told. Okay, let's go. So, for instance, we feed to the computer these 3 images. And we say that this image, there is a person, on the other image there is a person, and that there is a bird. And this is what computer knows, that we have 2 persons and a bird. And then, after that, we're gonna feed an image, and the computer doesn't know. We didn't say, what is this? And the computer, we expect from the computer the answer, basically. What is it? So how does it work? Basically, in the recent years, it happens through something that is called the concept of artificial neural networks. Artificial neural networks have been for a long time present in the world of science, but those recent advances that I mentioned before, can we go back for a second? Caused that basically the development has been extremely rapid, and in the recent years there's been a lot of applications of artificial neural networks. The name comes from the fact that they're inspired by the human brain, where we have synapses, and then basically the signals are passed between those synapses, and this way we process the information. So this is a more technical slide, just for those of you who are interested. There are many types that have been developed of these neural networks. Those are convolutional neural networks, recurrent neural networks, generative adversarial networks. It's not important for most of you. I just thought that I will put it out there so that if you're interested. So how does it work? Basically, we have this image, and then we are feeding it, putting it into this neural network, where the image is the input, and literally this input, those are pixels. Basically, certain pixel values, numbers, and after that, the algorithm is processing those numbers in a very obscure way. We're really not sure how it works, but we more or less have an idea. And then we have an output. Basically, in this case, we had, let's go back. We had 2 classes. So we had a person and a bird. And if we designed the program well, then that program will probably should tell us that Andy is a person, not a bird. Although there is a little possibility that he's a bird. So how can we further this? What else can we do? For instance, we can basically take an image and search for different objects in the image. In the previous, we had only one object, and we just classified it. In this example, we have to basically localize each object, label it, whether it's a dog, bicycle, or a car, and basically put a bounding box around that object to have like a more idea about what's going on in the image. So what else? What can we do with it? Basically, the applications are pretty much it's up to us. What we can imagine, because neural networks overall are quite simple in a way that we have certain input, and the input can be images, can be for instance words, can be certain signals like voice can be a signal, and after that we let the program do the job, and then we have the output. So what are the examples? For instance, machine translation, so translating text. Everybody is using right now the Google Translate. Behind the scenes, behind the engine, is actually artificial neural networks, where basically the input and output are different words in two different languages, and that's how we basically feed a lot of English sentences and a lot of Spanish sentences, and then we are teaching this program so that later we can fit a sentence that we don't know, and the output will be the expected output. This is another application which I'm actually working on. Is on driverless cars. So there is a lot of hype about it these days. Google is probably leading this research. It's about building cars that are driverless, that are connected between each other, and finally maybe create some kind of a safer environment where the transport network. So what's related to the previous slide is basically I'm applying the detection to the car environment. So basically cars have cameras around the car, left, right, front, back, and they are the input to the computer program, and basically we have to detect certain objects of interest like cars, pedestrians, traffic lights, traffic signs, so that computer can automatically make a decision whether the car should stop or whether it should go or whether it should turn. Another application is the speech recognition. Whether you have iPhone or Samsung or any product that uses actually speech recognition, the neural networks are also behind it, where we feed the voice, and basically the phone recognizes it as words and then can do appropriate action. Recently, maybe you've heard about ALPHAGO, about the game of Go. The game of Go is probably the most complex game known to us. It's extremely complex because it has a lot of possibilities. It's much more complex than chess, and nobody ever thought that computers can actually... Hello? And okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So people didn't expect that computer can actually be better than humans, because there are so many possibilities that right now we don't have computational power to cover all those possibilities. But because of this intelligent approach, recently provided by Google's DeepMind, the computer program actually beat the world champion in Go, and they beat it badly, like 5-1, I think it was. So it shows the power of those algorithms. And the last example for is we've had Shakespeare's poems, sonnets, and plays, basically all of it. And then, after that, we let the computer program create a Shakespeare work on its own. Basically, based on the input, this is what it created. If you don't know Shakespeare, I don't know, maybe you would think that it is a Shakespeare. Pandarus, alas, I think he shall be come, approached, and the day while little straying would be attained into being never fed, and who is but a chain and subjects of his death, I should not sleep. Thank you very much. Please come to me and we can talk more about it.
Last but not least, Ariel, 2008.
Hello, hello. All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. This has been fun to see such a variety of little snippets of what people are working on. Mine's a little less formal, I think, would be fair to say. So 9 years ago, 10 years ago, this is where we were at. This was the Cuddle Olympics that we had in Kosh or somewhere. Let's see. So UWC for me and probably everybody was really a big breaking open point in our lives. It was wonderful and I loved it here. One of my CAS activities was getting to work with the Peace and Justice Center in town, which I really felt an affinity for. So after I graduated here, I actually took a gap year and worked with the Peace Center full time, which is when this picture is from. And it really gave me a lot of hands-on experience with kind of building relationships and working in a community and what it can be like to be a stranger in a community and getting to know that community and make connections. I really, really liked that. That's one of the happiest years of my life, probably, was my gap year here. And I went off to Earlham College, and wow, this is going fast. Okay, speed things up. Earlham was a bit of a disappointment, but what I loved was the opportunity to do activism there. And so I got engaged with all sorts of issues on campus, one of which was SPJP, Students for Peace and Justice in Palestine, and the BDS movement. And largely thanks to Maisa, who was my roommate here, and Intisar and Sami, my interest in the Middle East kind of developed while I was in college and that kind of thing. The best part about college was finding ways to engage in issues beyond the classroom, really, which included even on commencement day, kind of protesting some of the institutional crap that needed to be called crap. Anyways, so I was pretty burned out with college by the time I was done with it, and I wanted something totally different. And so I took a month-long bicycle trip from Seattle, Washington to San Francisco, and it was amazing to get out of my head and kind of in the physicality of what that's like, and meeting people, really good connections, people. Okay, I missed a step. I went to Jordan while I was in college also. I got to go back after I graduated as the assistant director for a year, and among many other things, I met this gentleman, who is my sweetheart, and we've been together for 3.5 years now. But partly through him and partly through getting the chance to go back to Jordan to a radically different environment, I learned kind of how much I like connecting with people. Like people, I'm an introvert and I need my time alone to recharge, but connecting with people is really where it's at for me. So one of the things I got to do in Jordan, I love to sing and I don't do it much, but I will tomorrow at Blue Moon, thanks to Marco. But I got to sing with a Jordanian choir while I was in Jordan, which was an amazing thing. And one of the things we got to do was go to Latvia and to represent Jordan internationally was really wonderful. Okay, sorry, this is convoluted. Then I read this book, which was a bit of a downer and really, really hard because it kind of, I feel like it brought to light a lot of the things that we're tiptoeing around as a global community in terms of environmental crises. And it was really hard to like sit with that. And I definitely went through a period of grief and was like, oh no, what am I doing with my life? And why aren't I doing something better? And then I found that book, Pieces Every Step, which I would recommend to everybody, which really breaks down the whole UWC mission of being a leader in the world to like everyday acts that just have to do with how you conduct yourself as a human being. And that's within all of our control, and that's achievable for all of us. And that's been a really helpful tool for me to keep in mind as I continue to try and find my way piecing together what I think I'm supposed to be doing with my life. So I've moved around a lot since I graduated. I've been in Jordan, Indiana for college. Washington State is where my family is, and this is when I was back there for a year last year. And it was really interesting going home after being away for pretty much 10 years. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. The world changes us, being away changes us. One of the things I got to do, well, my work while I was there for the year was working with adults with developmental disabilities, and that was a hugely educational experience and really opened my eyes in so many ways about ways that we're not very inclusive in society, even if we think we are. Compassion and how to be more compassionate and how to teach and work with people was really amazing also. The last picture was my best friend's wedding. And I think, again, just community. These are the threads that keep coming up. Relationships, community, and what I can do in my personal relations to feel good about what I'm doing in life. Being in Washington for a year, I actually got to grow a garden for the first time ever, and I really was thrilled about that. And not only because I had some food to eat, and it was beautiful, and it was a cool thing to tend, but also because I ended up with these little tree frogs living in my garden, and it was amazing to see this kind of ecosystem come about. And so that kind of reignited my interest in gardening and permaculture and that kind of thing. In a roundabout way, I went from Washington back to Jordan for a while and then felt like this is the community that I wanted to be back in for a while, of all things. So I came back to Las Vegas in December, and I've been here ever since. And, well, for 8 months now. For me, Las Vegas is a really supportive community, and I love the people here. I love the work that I've gotten to do here, and I like that it's this little pocket of progressiveness that I know the UWC is part of. I just want to mention that San Miguel County became a Freedom County recently, which means they voted essentially to be a sanctuary county without using that language, which is a big deal. And the city is considering a refugee referendum as well to acknowledge the importance of having refugees feeling welcome in our community. Anyways, so the slide before this was a project that I'm simultaneously working on now. So I'm in town here, but I'm also working long distance with Tarek on trying to put together an environmental project in Jordan, because that's one of the things in the challenge of a long distance relationship and figuring out how we be together and be happy together is work that's really meaningful and important to both of us. So we're undertaking an environmental project that combines ecotourism with permaculture and community services. And it's in its very baby stages right now, but it's something we're very excited to be working towards. And I guess since leaving UWC, my path feels like it's really just been kind of a meandering, I don't know, searching of sorts. And I'm finding these little nuggets that seem to be key, at least for me in my own little world, about how I engage with people and community, and how I engage both intellectually but also with my hands. And that's kind of where my life is at. So anyways, thank you.
Okay, that's all the PechaKucha presentations we have. I hope you've enjoyed them. They're being recorded, so we'll share the link with you guys on Tuesday, as well as the pictures. Announcements too. If you know of anyone who's driving a car with California plates that may or may not have parked it at the post office, it needs to be moved. So if I don't think it's us because I don't, you know, with the whole thing with security. But if you know of anyone who might be, please, because we may get it towed, and I don't think that's ever happened in the town of Montezuma, New Mexico. And I couldn't tell you where to go get it either. So, and the second announcement is that we'll begin pictures at 6 o'clock, and if we want to begin the banquet and open the bar on time, we need to do the pictures on time. So we'll begin with a class of 91. Go, you have time right now to refresh and dress up if you may, or if you would like, and I'll see you all at 6 p.m. upstairs in the castle. Thank you.